Do you ever see something and just... Hello, I'm back. And it's to bitch about Doom the Dark Ages! Quick disclaimer, I am going off of my limited knowledge as a classic Doom player first, and a new Doom casual enjoyer second, as well as my fairly short time in the game industry as a marketer, level designer, and voice actor for an indie studio and under contract work. These are my personal opinions based on current information and speculation, and may change over time. So, what's my problem other than the fact that this game doesn't have those nice, crispy pixels that every retro game lover craves? Well, a few things. But I want to start off by saying that most of my problems with the trailer are mostly just due to taste. I do recognize that there's a lot of cool things in the trailer that I recognize have taken a lot of developers' hard work to achieve, and I want to be upfront that I do not intend to shit on that hard work with this video. The individual parts are great, but the total package being presented as Doom is where I'm having a bit of trouble parsing. I also want to emphasize that while I am a classic Doom lover, as you can tell by my channel, I don't hate every new Doom game that comes out just on principle. I was extremely excited about the release of Doom 2016, which was the first game that was released while I had been in the Doom fandom. And I pre-ordered Doom Eternal, and I played it on day one when it came out. I literally took the day off of work to do so. I never pre-order games, by the way, so it has to take a lot for a game to impress me to the point that I'd be willing to do that. Part 1. Canon. Okay, you may be thinking, Shannon, you're 7 seconds into this trailer and you're already mad. Why? Well, I play classic Doom and I'm a pedant. Deal with it. Doom 2 does this thing where it calls Doom Guy our hero at the end of it. So I saw the word hero and immediately thought, are they attempting to go all the way back to the beginning of Doom's canon, or at the very least to Doom 2's canon? Now, when we talk about canon in Doom, that word, for the most part, doesn't really have much meaning. There was a thing one of the original devs said about story in a game being as important as the story in porn. So when I say canon doesn't have that much meaning in Doom, that's according to the guys who made the damn thing. However, I will note that stuff that exists in the original game specifically should probably matter at least a little, because there's constant references to it in New Doom. Doom 2016 had secrets that were literally just classic Doom maps. Thank you, Jason O'Connell, we love you. Doom Eternal has a portrait of Doomslayer and Daisy in the Doomslayer's lair, as well as a reference to the Doom comics with the huge guts, rip and tear lines. Doom comics were also set generally in the time of the original Doom. When specifically that is, we're not sure, because there's no canonical year set for Doom 1, 2, or 64. Now, Hugo Martin has gone on to clarify that Dark Ages will take place between Doom 64 and Doom 2016, which makes a lot more sense to me, but I kind of wish that was made more clear, or at least different wording was used in the trailer. Obviously, by the rest of the context clues of the trailer, it's all set in the same universe of Doom Eternal, which is definitely different than classic Dooms, but as an immediate gut reaction for the first 7 seconds of the trailer, and wow, that's a long time for just those words to be on the screen, it was a little weird. Now, I'm going to loop back to what I said a minute ago, which is that canon in Doom doesn't particularly matter. I pretty well stand by this, because I've also played through Doom Eternal without really giving a fuck about the new lore. Mostly because it seemed kind of strange to me, and also just because the game was fun? I don't know. It didn't really seem like the lore mattered too much. However, this is a prequel and a bit of an origin story by design, which means canon is going to matter somewhat in the context of the game, and how the game is designed. Remember, it didn't have to do any of this stuff. I really don't think many people were asking for more story in New Doom, and honestly, the stuff we got in Doom 3 was already a lot more than we were used to getting. But if it has made the choice to make the canon matter, then at the very least, it should make sense. I'm sure that they'll find great ways to make it work, but as of now, it seems a little out of place, at the very least. The next line also states that the Slayer was the tool of gods and kings, which, I'm gonna be honest, makes no sense for this character, like, including in New Doom's context. He's pretty much been a badass who takes no orders and just does whatever is necessary to beat the demons because that's what he's want to do. Suddenly making him a pawn of powerful people just feels silly to me. Part 2, the character design. Okay, look, everybody's going nuts for this fur cape, and I'm gonna be real, I don't vibe with it. Not over the Praetor armor, especially when you've got this weird leather and chainmail loincloth thing. Like, I think it's cool, but I think the armor itself maybe needs a redesign. There's still a lot of green, plasticky bits in the helmet, so it feels extremely anachronist and not in a good way. So, and I understand the reason for this is that so Doomslayer is still recognizable as that, but I keep looking at the details of the armor that they did change, with there being a lot more traditional metal bits than the Doom Eternal suit, and wondering why they didn't fully commit to a change in design. Obviously, this is sometime in the distant future, probably in the early 2100s if I had to guess, but if that's the case, why the medieval bits at all? The answer could simply be it looks cool, which is a valid reason, but personally, I don't really think so. Editing Shannon here, apparently there is a canonical reason for the Praetor suit. It's supposed to be an ancient suit that the Doomslayer was just found with. So I'm not exactly sure how the redesign in this case would actually really make a lot of sense. However, who knows? It's a game, so not everything has to make sense, but just putting that in there because I don't want somebody to come after me being like, there's a canonical reason for this suit. I get it. There's probably a canonical reason for it. Canonical? Canonical? Whatever. Part 3, the weapons. The weapons, for the most part, are the thing that I'm most excited about for the game. The SSG looks great, there's this awesome nail gun that pins enemies to the wall, and a skull-crushing flak cannon, which is just honestly so cool. Look at this thing! It was actually the first thing that was brand new that really made me feel like it was a Doom game. It's a great Hell-style weapon that kind of invokes feelings from Doom 64's Unmaker, not to be confused with Doom Eternal's Unmaker. I'm truly not sure how I feel about the chainsaw shield. While shields are new to the FPS genre, I'm not sure how much I vibe with the Captain America-style boomerang throws. But I'm also going to have to level here with it. For those of you who don't know, I work for Hellforge Studios, which is an indie publisher of games, and we also do development. One game we publish and develop is called Age of Hell, which features a hammer you can throw to knock down enemies in a similar style. So really, we'd be the Thor to Dark Ages Captain America. The gameplay, according to Hugo Martin, is going to be more focused on flatter levels and a lot more demons, or as I'd put it, your run-of-the-mill slaughter map. We'll see how the level design goes. I wasn't really impressed by much that I saw in the trailer that was new. There was like a really great wide shot with some crumbling towers, which looked really cool. But a lot of the level design felt really flat and brown and just dirt, which is definitely a departure from the styles of the past few games where it's been a lot more vertically, there's a lot more verticality involved. So hoping that this goes well, but flatter level design I'm a little bit apprehensive about. Part 4, Mechs and Dragons. Oh boy, so we have the big badass Doomslayer in an even bigger mech? Great. And look, I don't necessarily hate the idea of the mechs as how they are presented in this trailer to be used. There's some really big enemies that you do battle with from what I can tell, but also, we took down the Icon of Sin without one and he was pretty big, like both in classic and New Doom canon, so I'm not really sure exactly what's going on here. But at the same time, man, I would have really loved for us to take over a monster body again. The Revenant scene in Doom Eternal kicked so much ass. While I understand that it was put in the game basically to advertise the battle mode, rest in peace, it was actually a really natural feeling part of the game and extremely fun to play. I'd love to see that again and see it used more. And it would also make a ton of sense in this more fantasy-leaning setting as well. This isn't to say that it won't happen, anything can happen between now and next year, But that's probably the one new mechanic I would have wanted most to see come back, because it was really cool. The dragons, I like the design, but flying, not really sure why this is a needed thing. The whole point of being Doomslayer, or Doom Guy, was to at least have some sort of humbling experience where you're dwarfed by hell. Of course, this is one of those things where I'd probably want to see more about how they're used in the game, but more information is required on these ones, please, because I am lost in the sauce. Part 5. The industry sucks, and this is a symptom. Okay, so look, I've been having trouble liking much about this trailer, but I'll be honest, it's not its fault necessarily. Although the trouble with Mick Gordon did leave a sour taste in my mouth about the new id, it's not just that, it's a lot of things. Firstly, while I had originally tweeted about this game being better as Quake, and others even speculating that it was meant to be Quake, it's been confirmed that it was never going to be a Quake game. Which, I don't know if it makes it better or worse that we have had this strange anachronistic blend of medieval and tech-heavy elements that clash against each other, but it isn't a return to Quake 1's aesthetic choices. And look, I know Quake Champions really didn't do all that great, but it's kind of sad that we've not had a return to single-player Quake at all, even though people have been clamoring for one for a good while now. I've seen plenty of folks speculate this is just because Doom is simply a better-known franchise, but that's because a lot more love has been put into Doom in the last decade by id than Quake has gotten. We've only just now gotten a Quake 1 and 2 remaster, which was done by Night Dive and Machine Games assisting on Quake 2's. Even Wolfenstein's gotten a lot more love in the last few years. The point is, it feels like companies don't want to take a risk on anything they feel won't be an instant money predator, which really kills creativity and prevents new game series from getting off the ground, or even existing ones from getting new installments. Which brings me to my next point. According to internal memos by Matt Booty, head of Xbox Game Studios at the time of the closure of Arcane Austin, Alpha Dog Studios, Tango Gameworks, and Roundhouse Games, it was said that these closures were in service of ensuring that, quote, our teams across Arcane Lion, Bethesda Game Studios, id Software, Machine Games, ZeniMax Online Studios, and the Bethesda publishing and corporate teams will be well positioned to build new IP, explore new game concepts, and expand on our existing franchises. If Tango Gameworks sounds familiar to you, that's because they made Hi-Fi Rush, a game by which the admission of Aaron Greenberg, the VP of Xbox Games Marketing, was a breakout hit across all key measurements and expectations. While I can't say that these closures were simply in service of Doom alone, and they wouldn't be, I can only speculate it may be part of the reason, and I just can't feel good about that. I can't feel good about getting a new game in my favorite franchise when studios are being closed down in service of making that happen. I've already received a bit of backlash for pointing out the things I didn't like about the trailer on Twitter, and while yes, it's just a trailer and not a representation of the final product that I haven't played yet, I think it's also a bit strange to be shouted down this much about not liking something. Not just that I'm getting shouted down, I'm used to that by now, but it's become a bit of a sunk cost fallacy in fandoms that are as old as Doom's. Jenny Nicholson had pointed out feeling similarly about her Star Wars hotel experience that she got one of the weirdest Screen Rant articles written about her that I've ever seen. And I have to wonder, is everyone really in love with this game? Or is it we feel we need to like it so that Microsoft doesn't boot id games out of the airlock? I cover this more in depth in an article I've written on my blog, but I feel it's worth mentioning here because the thing is, I don't want id to die. I owe my platform to that company's creations. I wouldn't have met my partner without Doom. It's a series that's changed my life in profound ways. But at the same time, I want people to say how they really feel about the game. If they do love all the ideas, that's awesome. But I worry that over time, fandoms are going to become more toxically positive about the new games set in a series because they're worried that if the game doesn't sell well enough, that they'll never get one of those games again. I don't want to shell out $70 for a game I don't like, but also, I don't want to never have the chance to be able to do so again. Anyway, that's my video. Like and subscribe, I guess. I don't post here super often, but every so often, I'll do the thing. Feel free to comment, etc., and so on. You can also catch me on Twitter. I'm sometimes on Twitch. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Bye!